Hey there, Vinyl Community people. It's MGK Boston. That's Mike back with another video. 2 weeks ago, I went to a record show. It'll be 2 weeks ago this Sunday over in Burlington, Mass. And it was a really good one to kick off the year. I found a lot of good stuff. Didn't spend a ton of cash and came away with a real nice stack of wax. So I just thought I'd walk you through kind of like a recent finds video, but I found everything at the same place, and that was at the Hilton Garden Inn in Burlington, Massachusetts. So yeah, it was a great show. So anyway, without further ado, let's just dive right in. Got a good variety pack today, folks. So this should keep it interesting. All right, it's Mr. Richard Betts, otherwise known as Dickie Betts, from the Allman Brothers Band. This is his debut solo release in 1974. He was just coming off, him and the rest of the band were coming off the success of the Brothers and Sisters album. And of course, Dickie got his vocal chops on that with Southbound and Ramblin' Man, featuring his vocal stylings. Don't know why he called himself Richard Betts here, trying to be more serious, but he was always known as Dickie Betts. So it threw me when I saw this. Never seen it before. I'm pretty familiar with the Greg Allman solo stuff, and I'll get into another one of Greg's in a minute. But yeah, this is really good. My only complaint with it, it's too short. Clocks in at just under 30 minutes. But it's really good. And he's got a huge band. Everybody got a photo credit on here, even the sound engineers. So this is pretty funny. Check out this dude's t-shirt. You can see that. Spring Break, Daytona Beach. This record's 1974, but that guy, that sound engineer, whatever his name is, Sam Whiteside. Yeah, look at the guy having a dart over his shoulder there, having a smoke. But yeah, seeing that t-shirt, this guy looks like a roadie or a roadie for Anthrax or Megadeth. I mean, look at that guy. Anyway, I just thought that was really humorous. Side note, but you can see the rest of the band. There's the slide guy and just different musicians here. Big lineup here for a short record. Speaking of smokes, there's Dickie firing one off right there. He's having a dart. But anyway, it's called Highway Call. Title track on this is really great. And the album kicks off with a track called Long Time Gone. That is not the Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young song. It's his own. Let Nature Sing. And then there's a really long track on here, hand-picked. Pretty much takes up most of side two here. And the fiddle gets a little annoying on it for me. A little bluegrassy, but the rest of it, it's really great. And it's Highway Call. Richard Betts, a.k.a. Dickie Betts from the Allman Brothers Band. Solo debut in 74. All right. Speaking of Greg Allman, here he is. This is his fourth solo album. Of course, it's a studio album. But yeah, so I only have the only other solo album I have by Greg. It's an album called Laid Back, and I believe that was his debut from 5 or 6 years prior. But again, this one coming out 1977. And it's a little more polished than Laid Back. But again, he's got a solid band here. Really good. Some of the highlights on this one, Come and Go Blues, Bring It On Back, and Crying Shame. That's a good one too. But this is Greg Allman, and it's, of course, what's it called here? Playing Up a Storm, and there he is doing just that on the keys right there, like he was known to do. Saw the Allman Brothers Band 4 or 5 times. I lost track. Last time was here in Mansfield out by Gillette Stadium. It was formerly called Great Woods, the venue here in Mansfield, Mass. That show was probably 2006. Patty, actually, I dragged her to that with me. And here's a neat little. One time I saw them in Toronto at the former Molson Amphitheater. My friends in Toronto, I don't know what they're calling that now. You guys would know, down by the water on Lake Ontario. We were coming out of the show. This was in summer of '98. And there was a local jam band called Caution Jam. You can see they're on the Steal Your Face Dead, on top of the Dead logo. But this was a club called the 360 on Queen Street West. And we went right after the Allman Brothers show, ended up keeping the party going. And it's a post-Allman's party, just like that little thing says. Yeah, we were walking out of the venue and some dude just handing these out as a promo. And it went well into the wee hours of the morning. Really good, Caution Jam. So just a little side note, concert stuff I like to throw into my videos. And there he is, Playing Up a Storm. That's Greg Allman, his 4th solo album. All right. Been on a kick with Jerry Lee Lewis lately. It's been a little hit and miss, but this is definitely a hit. This one's from 1972, and it's called Would You Take Another Chance on Me? So it looks like he's going to roll the dice and find out if she's going to take the chance. Good news here is, though, looks like she's thinking about it. So, She's thinking about it, Jerry Lee. So anyway, I think I saw Jack over at the Vinyl Martini might have shown this one a couple months ago. And I'm pretty sure, Jack, you could chime in the comments here if this was one you picked up. But this is just really solid. Like I've said before with Jerry Lee Lewis, I prefer the country stuff to the rock and roll. Although the rock and roll, he can kick out the jams, but he just had such a great voice for traditional country and western. And it's showcased right here on this album. Title track is great, Would You Take Another Chance on Me? Swinging Doors, that's a Merle Haggard song. He does a cover of that. There it is. Real boogie tune on this one is Big Blonde Baby on side one. That's really good. And of course the cover he does of Me and Bobby McGee. Where is that? Yeah, kicking off side two. That's a Chris Christopherson composition. Of course, probably one of the best versions I've ever heard of the song. Really got a boogie woogie vibe to it. And that's the killer. Jerry Lee Lewis, Would You Take a Chance on Me? Roll the dice and find out, Jerry Lee. All right. Still staying with some country and western here. This one's popped up a number of times. I've seen it shown in the vinyl community. It's Willie Nelson, Red-Headed Stranger. It wasn't what I expected. It kind of sounds like singing cowboy songs around a campfire. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but it's very stripped down. This is a concept album. It was about basically a preacher discovers his wife's having an affair and he kills them both and he hits the road, and that's the whole concept. And anyway, it's okay. I've given it one listen all the way through. Given all the accolades it gets, I need to give it a fair shake, and I'll listen to it a couple more times. There's a cartoon on the back telling the story of the theme that I just mentioned. And this is Red-Headed Stranger, like I say, and the release date on this one, I want to say 1975 on that. Total departure from the usual Willie Nelson on this one. Again, it's a concept album. So again, got to give that another shake. All right. Still with Willie here. Now this one, this is a real hit for me. I loved it because it combines two of my favorite singer-songwriters, if you will. It's Willie Nelson doing a whole cover album of Chris Christopherson songs. It's really, really great. Christopherson himself sings backup on a couple of tracks, but his presence is not really noticeable, if you will. But the release date on this one is a little later than Red-Headed Stranger. I think this one's 1979. Yeah, 79. And there's Chris on the back doing a little photo cameo with Willie. And of course, they were also, I should mention this. I should have pulled this out earlier. Where is it? I had a copy of The Highwaymen. I seem to have misfiled that. I thought it was over there in my CDs, but I can't find it. So sorry for that distraction. But yeah, of course, they were in The Highwaymen with Waylon Jennings and Johnny Cash, the four of them. Kind of the biggest country and western supergroup I can certainly think of. But, all of the songs are here on this one. Let's take a look on the inside. Well, it's, of course, Help Me Make It Through the Night. The Pilgrim, Chapter 33. It's an often overlooked track. That's a really good one on here. Of course, Levener Was Easier. Sunday Morning Coming Down. You know all these if you know Chris Christopherson. And this is Willie Nelson sings Christopherson. And it's really excellent. 1979, the release on that. And there he is. Just to mention him, there he is. Again, I'll say it. It's Chris Christopherson, The Silver-Tongued Devil and I. This was his second album after his debut. It's really great. And I'm officially now, I think, a completist on all his stuff, including the stuff he did with his ex-wife, Rita Coolidge. And Silver-Tongued Devil and I kicks this off. Good Christian Soldier, that's nice. Kind of a traditional religious vibe on that one. And The Pilgrim, Chapter 33 that I just mentioned on that Willie Nelson covers album, of course, that's on this one. And so is Loving Her Was Easier. And The Taker. I mean, they're all good. It's really good. Just at his peak here. There he is. Movie star looks, and he later became a movie star to some effect. Yeah, let's see if there's anything on the inside. Of course, he was on the Monument label. Just the lyrics on the inside. That's nice if I want to sing along. And yeah, there you can see the Monument logo right there. Just thought I'd show that. Now defunct, of course, that label long gone. Someone else bought the catalog up. I think it was CBS, but I could be mistaken. Silver-Tongued Devil and I. Chris Christopherson. Release date on that one, 1971. So still staying in the country and western, definitely traditional country and western vein. It's Loretta Lynn, another one that we lost last year. And this would have been her second studio release, released in 1962. She's very young there, as you can see. She looks like some Southern housewife. She was from Kentucky after all, of course, they're on the Decca label. So yeah, it's full of hits on this one. Wine, Women, and Song, Fool Number One, Get Set for a Heartache. She didn't write any of these songs. She wrote one of them on here, Where Were You? But and Singing the Blues, she does a good version of that, kicking this off. It's really excellent, Singing the Blues, if you want to look that up. And this one, of course, Before I'm Over You, the title track, that's the best song on this, and it's really, really great. Showcases her vocal chops, which just, can't be surpassed as a female in country and western, other than, like I've maybe said, Tammy Wynette, pretty close second or a tie in a vocal cage match, if you will, fighting it out. But yeah, this is really good, and it's her second album. And then we move forward to 1968, I believe, on this one. 1969. It's called Woman of the World. And this one, her vocals, I would say, excuse me, on the end of my man cold here. Anyway, her vocals are a little more mature on this, if you will, than the one I just showed from 62. Of course, this is 7 years later. Woman of the World. So Woman of the World is the title track, which is very good. Johnny One Time. I Started Loving You Again. That's a Merle Haggard song on here. It's right there. I Started Loving You Again right there. Credit goes to Merle. Yeah, this is really great. Of course, she was still on the Decca label at this point. These were just like near mint, and I think these are originals based on these inner sleeves. I haven't cataloged these yet on my Discogs, but really, really, really excellent shape. There's the cool Decca Technicolor logo in the center there. So yeah, Loretta Lynn, Woman of the World, which she was. But yeah, can't go wrong with it. This one seller at the show, he just had a ton of vintage country, and it was all in great shape, so I snatched those up. The Christofferson, all of that. So this was a really great surprise. This is Blues Project. These guys I've mentioned before in my videos. I have their 3 or 4 studio records that they did in the mid to late 60s. Of course, centered around keyboard player Al Cooper. There's Al right there. And Danny Kalb there, guitar and vocals. And the other guys, Steve Katz, Roy Blumenfeld, and Andy Kuhlberg. This is recorded live, as you can see here at Central Park, summer of 1973, June 24th, in Central Park. So these guys, of course, like I said, they did 3 or 4 records. They were founded Greenwich Village, New York City. This is traditional, I would call it psych blues. Really, really great. These guys all know how to play. I mean, they're just impeccable players. And again, Al Cooper, I pick up anything with Al Cooper that I see it, I grab it. And definitely more hits than misses with Al as a band leader. But yeah, these guys split. Al Cooper went on, did the first Blood, Sweat, and Tears album, and then he did some other stuff, the Bloomfield Cooper Stills live session, super session, if you will, among other things, and played with other people. And yeah, so I'm not going to give a history lesson on Al Cooper, but those are just some little tidbits. Here's the inside. You can see the crowd in Central Park. So it's kind of a miracle they got back together. I think their egos, when Blues Project split, thought it would never happen, but it does happen sometimes with some of these bands. There they are in their younger days. This is a nice photo on the back. And then here they are a little later on. This, of course, in 1973. These photos taken at the show in Central Park. But yeah, they do a lot of their original songs here. What do we got here? You Can't Catch Me. They do a cover here of Donovan Catch the Wind. That's very good. 2 Trains Running. Louisiana Blues is killer. And probably the highlight on this one for me, I Can't Keep From Crying Sometimes. Just a really, really, really good version of it. And this record, I found it, again, it's in really great shape. And, I think I paid $8 for this. And it's just, I haven't looked it up on Discogs, but it's really, really good find for me, because I really like Al Cooper and I love the Blues Project. So as it says here, it's the original Blues Project, and it's Reunion in Central Park. Really excellent. That was the find of the show for me, for sure. All right, shifting gears totally here. The year is 1987. It's from definitely from the UK. UB40, fronted by what was his name? I can't think of his name. Campbell. I can't think of the guy's first name. Big band. I want to say 8 or 9 piece band. Mike, the vinyl PC31, the vinyl policeman, his channel. He just posted a funny video recently. Someone sent him some VCLT as it's called. And his wife Karen really digs UB40, and I like him too. Karen, Mike, be sure to pass that on to Karen. She's got great taste picking the UB40. Some people think it's kind of cheesy. I'm a huge reggae fan. This is very commercial reggae, pop if you will, but it still goes down easy once in a while. If you just want it in the background, you're having a party, whatever. But this is live actually in Moscow, as it says. Never saw this before. Again, I saw this at this show. I thought I knew most of the UB40 stuff, but I've never seen this one. Weren't a lot of bands toured in Moscow in 1987, so I don't know how they got behind the Iron Curtain and did their thing, but they somehow did. You know, and all their hits are here. Of course, Cherry O Baby's on here. Keep on Moving. That's a Curtis Mayfield cover. Keep on Moving. You want to look that up? Look up the original Keep on Moving of Curtis Mayfield, and then look up the cover here. They do it justice. And here's a version of I Got You Babe. The original UB40 version they did with Chrissy Hynde, of course, sharing the vocals. With that guy Campbell I mentioned. Again, his first name is just flying around me. I can't think of it right now. But again, live in Moscow. It's UB40, 1987, the release date on that one. I just saw it. It was a few bucks, in great shape. I grabbed it. And this is another one. I had this in high school, and it just flew away from my collection somewhere, some way, like things do over the years. I'm getting old. Yeah, this very commercial top 40 at the time, but it's really listenable, like I say. You know, Cherry O Baby, the song I just mentioned, it's on here. And again, there's the studio version of Keep on Moving, that Curtis Mayfield track. Many Rivers to Cross. Of course, Red, Red Wine. That's that Neil Diamond cover. And that was a huge hit for them, a top 10 hit, that cover they did of Red, Red Wine. So I'm sure Neil Diamond digs it. But it's UB40. And again, the name of this one, Labor of Love. And the release date on this one, I want to say 1982, 83. 83, yeah, and there they were on A&M Records. It's Labor of Love, that's UB40. All right, we're getting through this. It's the Bee Gees. This is their debut. Whether you can see the sidemen, and of course centered around Maurice, Robin, and Barry. This was released in 1966, I want to say, 67. And of course, I'd say it was before the Robert Stigwood days, but I didn't know Robert Stigwood was managing them even back then, before they went total disco in the 70s. They were a traditional folk pop outfit at this point, just beautiful harmonies. I've mentioned Bee Gees before, this 60s stuff. It's just like ear candy, if you will. And this one's just self-titled. It's just called, well, Bee Gees First, if you will. So there's Barry down in front. Looks different without the beard, doesn't it? It's hard to pick him out there. Let's see what's on the inside here. So of course, they were on Atco, and as Atco would do, there's a promo on the inside for all the other artists, and there's the Atco logo on the inside. So To Love Somebody was a great song on this one. New York mining disaster, 1941, was another minor hit on this one, if you wanted to investigate and look up some of this stuff. But again, it's the Bee Gees First. All right. This guy I might have mentioned last year in one of my videos. I'd call Steve Forbert like a folk pop guy. Not like the Bee Gees, but more in the tradition of a Bob Dylan, if Bob Dylan was more top 40, if you will. But I wouldn't call Steve Forbert top 40, far from it. But I'm trying to characterize and define this in the best way I can. But the best way for you to do that, folks, is just go and find some Steve Forbert and listen to it yourself. This is his second release. It's called Jackrabbit Slim. His debut that came a year or two just before this is called Alive on Arrival, and it's also excellent. And that's one I would have shown last year in one of my videos. And this, again, like I say, is the follow-up, Jackrabbit Slim, and released in 1979. And there on the back, there he is riding a rabbit, because, you know, that's what you do. There he is. So, yeah, he was a Southern guy, but he was discovered playing the subway in New York City, so the story goes. And he got signed. He was on a label. What's this? Nemperor Records was the name of the label. I'll show that in a second on the logo. But Romeo's Tune was a huge single on this one. It got some life breathed back into it. I want to say probably 12, 13 years ago. That new country guy, Keith Urban. I call him Mr. Nicole Kidman, lucky guy. Not a big fan of Keith Urban, but he did a cover of that and kind of brought it back to life, like I said. And I'm in Love with You is a really great ballad on this. You can look that one up too. There's the track listings here. There's I'm in Love with You right there. And of course, there's Romeo's Tune that I just mentioned. And let's see. Yeah, on the side here. Yeah, and on Emperor Records, there's their logo there with the N with that kind of violet color on the inside. That label also gone, under the indie label. But yeah, this is his second album. Like I said, Jack Rabbit Slim, and it's Steve Forbert. All right. Heading into the 80s here, I think precisely 1980. This is the fourth studio release from Ultravox, and this is the first featuring the vocal stylings of Midge Ure. There he is. John Fox had departed to do other things. Excuse me. And I'm actually a bigger fan of this lineup. I prefer Midge Ure's singing. I don't mind John Fox solo, but with Ultravox, it just didn't jive with me. I'm sorry if I'm offending any of you John Fox fans out there. But big Midge Ure fan. Big, huge. So I'd call this almost like a second debut album for Ultravox, because it's a brand new lineup with Midge Ure on vocals. But this one's really excellent. Kicks off with a track called Sleepwalk, Passing Strangers. I mean, I hadn't listened to this in a long time. So I had this on a cassette. I've said in my videos before, I don't make cassettes anymore, but I used to record cassettes. I never bought pre-recorded cassettes, but I borrowed an album from a friend and record it. And this was one of those that I had. I didn't have the original, but now I do. And it's called Vienna. And one more song in this I should mention, the title track, Vienna, is really excellent. And it closes out with a track called All Stood Still, which is very good. Stood Still, rather. There they are on the back. Sleeve, it looks a little worn, but the record itself, really great shape. Let's take a look at the inside here really quickly. Yeah, I had to replace the inner sleeve here. Of course, and there they were on the Chrysalis label. Chrysalis label is usually blue, so it's funny seeing that in black and white. I've never seen that before. But again, it's Ultravox, and it's Vienna, 1980. Moving a few years ahead in the 80s, it's Alison Moyet. This is her debut solo album. Alison Moyet was mostly known for being the lead singer for Yazoo in the UK, and they were called Yaz in North America. So Upstairs at Eric's, any fans of new wave synth pop would know that record. But this is her solo debut, and it's really excellent. I'm trying to think of the guy. Vince Clarke was the guy that was in Yaz with her, and he'd formerly been with Depeche Mode on a couple of their records. Speak and Spell comes to mind. But he split and formed Erasure after Yaz, and then Alison Moyet just went on solo, and this is called Alf. You can see there's the title right there. So it was interesting. I just looked. This is another one I had on a cassette that I'd recorded from somebody, and I saw this just as a $5 record. If you see it in the wild, it's really, really great. It's got that total mid-'80s synth vibe. The release date on this one's 84. She's compared. I just looked to see a review on this. Some guy I just saw on the interwebs comparing her to Adele, and actually said she was better than Adele. Well, I'm not a huge Adele fan, but it might not surprise any of you that my wife Patty loves Adele, but Adele can sing, there's no doubt. But this one here, Alison Moyet, she's got more of a throaty, raspy delivery, not like Bonnie Raitt or anything like that, but it's just really goes right with the synth sound in the background. So some of the highlights on this one: Love Resurrection, Honey for the Bees is good. It's kind of all over the place. It's a little disjointed. Some of these sound like singles, and then you listen to it a second time and go, I don't know. All Cried Out is a nice one. And the big single on this one, though, that was a single, is called Invisible. And that's probably the #1 track on this record, Invisible. If you look that up, there's a good video for it from the MTV days. And this is Alison Moyet, and it's called Elf, 1984, her solo debut. All right, heading into some more traditional blues, and it's the great George Thorogood. So now I officially think I might have all the George Thorogood stuff, because this is his debut, and it's eluded me. I never had it. This was 1977 with the Delaware Destroyers. There he is with the boys on the back right here. God, he looks so young. There's George right there on the back, and his sidemen. And there they are on stage. So I saw him on the Maverick tour in '85. I was only in high school. Johnny Winter opened that show. It was killer, really great. And at this time, he was on Rounder right here. You can see the logo on the inside. And yeah, what do we got on here? You Gotta Lose, Madison Blues, One Bourbon, One Scotch, One Beer, Kind-Hearted Woman, Can't Stop Lovin'. I mean, this plays like a greatest hits album. Right On, Josephine, I'll Change My Style. And of course, he rounds it out with the Delaware Slide. Really great. I want to see him again. He's getting old, but he's still touring. He's still doing it. He even went as far as Australia last year on his tour. So this is a show I want to see before it's too late, as they say, because these guys are dropping like flies. The musicians seem to be passing on every day. David Crosby just yesterday. I mean, boy, if there's a guy that had 9 lives, that was David Crosby, right? But anyway, self-titled debut. It's George Thorogood and the Destroyers, 1977. Just really killer, really great. Chuck Berry must dig it. All right, and then some more kind of post-punk new wave, if you will. It's The Alarm. Again, this is one, I actually had this on an album in high school and would have lent it to somebody, or I lost it in college, who knows. At that time, you know, you'd lend stuff to people and they'd move, or when you were a student, and you just didn't get it back. But whatever, I got it back now. That's all that matters. And this is a pretty near mint copy. This was released in 1984. I think this was their debut because this is their debut because they'd done a couple of EPs up to this point. The Chant has just begun. I've got that EP in my collection. But yeah, again, this is just like $5 or $6 record. And there's Mike Peters, the lead singer right there. They were billed as kind of coming up around the same time as U2. Don't know if it was mismanagement or they just didn't keep it together, but they just didn't gain a lot of traction in North America. And as a result, they just didn't become the next U2. But what are you going to do? They still put out some great music. And this is Declaration, Marching On. 68 Guns was a huge single. There's a great video for that one. Blaze of Glory. Yeah. And We Are the Light. That's a good one too. But yeah, Declaration, that's The Alarm. And I'm almost at the end, folks. Of course, it wouldn't be a record show if I didn't get at least one jazz album. Sometimes I go jazz heavy. I just didn't see a whole ton of jazz this time that really grabbed me. And the stuff, I wasn't into buying $50 records. So I got this for a good price. So this is a $10 record. And of course, Milt Jackson, legendary vibraphone player. Of course, long illustrious career throughout the 60s into the 70s with the Modern Jazz Quartet, and Coleman Hawkins here on sax. He played with a number of people. And what do we got here? This is a sextet on this. You've got Coleman Hawkins on tenor sax, Milt Jackson on the vibes, the great Kenny Burrell on guitar, Eddie Jones on bass, and Connie Kay on drums. So it's six tracks on here. Close Your Eyes, Sandra's Blues, Indian Blues, and Get Happy. It's all good. Solid sextet here. And of course, this is a reissue on the Atlantic label. I think the original release date, I'll spit that out, on this one was 1958. It's called Beanbags. And that's Milt Jackson and Coleman Hawkins. Really great jazz, traditional jazz. If you dig the cool jazz, this is where you should be seeking this one out. Of course, this was reissued on compact disc too, I believe, at some point in the 90s. But yeah, excellent. That's Coleman Hawkins and Milt Jackson. And closing things out, just a quick glance. It's the beautiful Marianne Faithfull. This is a record called Go Away From My World. I want to say the release date on this one's 65, 66. Really great. Some of the moments on here. She does a cover of the Tom Paxton song, Last Thing on My Mind. Look up the Tom Paxton version of the Last Thing on My Mind. It's just a beautiful folk song. She does it okay here. She makes it a little too poppy for my liking. But Marianne Faithfull had a really cool voice, and I think she was Mick Jagger's girlfriend for a while. Probably that might have had something to do with her record deal. What else on here? Title track, again, Go Away From My World. Lullaby, North Country Made is good. And Wild Mountain Time. Yeah, it's a nice listen. It's pleasant. And it's Marianne Faithfull. So that's going to close it out, folks. That's almost 30 minutes here of me showing stuff from that show. But it was a really good show. Shout out to my friend Stan that was there. He tapped me on the shoulder. He's a guy who lives around near here in Stowmass. He doesn't do YouTube channels, but he does comment on my videos. Doesn't have a channel, that is. So anyway, it was a good show, and there'll be another one, I want to say, probably in April. They do. It's a 4-season kind of thing. Same host that runs it. It's very well organized, so I'll be going to the next one. So anyway, whatever you're doing this weekend, I hope it's good. I'm back with the living. I kicked my man cold, so yay for me. And that's it, folks. So I'll see you next time.